Hey, this is David Hayter. You may know me as the screenwriter of films like X-Men, X-Men 2, and Watchmen, but you probably know me best as the voice of Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid. And you're listening to Hawaii's #1 podcast, the Kasanova Podcast. Kept you waiting, huh?
The Kasanova Podcast, the #1 podcast in Hawaii, is brought to you by these contributors on Patreon. If you'd like to see more content like this more often, as well as more podcast reviews, impressions, early access releases, live streams, and original content, then consider becoming a patron today. All right, and welcome everyone to another episode of Hawaii's #1 podcast, the Kasanova Podcast. I'm your host, Mekel Kasanova, and I have the honor and privilege of having both the CEO of Physicality Games, the one and only Bill Swartz, and the Marketing Manager of Physicality Games, David Bruno. Guys, how's it going?
Excellent. Thank you for that intro. I am indeed Bill Swartz, often imitated, never copied.
Hey.
I always get a new one from Bill. I love it every time. And yes, I am David. Welcome. Thank you for having us. I really appreciate it. I was about to say welcome to the podcast, but we're your guests. So.
But for the record, David has all the brains, so he does all the work.
So with that being said, go ahead and introduce yourself. If there's, plug your social media links, and let's talk about it. Let's talk about yourself, some of your guys' hobbies and interests. And I know we're going to dive into Physicality Games and why your guys' company is so amazing. But let's learn a little bit more about each of you guys.
Sure. Bill, want to start?
Sure.
I'm right.
Okay, I'm Bill and I'm a Leo.
I'm David.
I mean, is there anything else to say? So I'm Bill. I'm the CEO of Physicality. I'm basically the CEO from my desk to that trash can, and then David is kind of the CEO from his paper shredder. And then Miguela, our Japan office, the CEO, all the way from her desk to the window. It's remarkable. But I've been in this business before. I should have added up before I got on. So really quick math, almost exactly 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I got hired right out of college in 1987 by Koei. Which I was employee 28 of Koei. I was talking about desks earlier. So at that time, like I said, I was employee 28, but we're split around these sort of 5 pretty small offices in the same area. And in my office, there was this long table, 6 sort of stations. So this is a desk, which basically just a long table. Think a big dining room table. And it was me, and then my friend sat next to me, and then one over from him was Mr. Arakawa, who was the chairman and creator. And then this was in Yokohama in Japan. Did that for like 9 months. I produced, although produce is kind of a self-aggrandizing term because it's more like product management, but in Japan they call it product planning. But I'm theoretically the producer of Nobunaga's Ambition, the foreign version, and the Master of the Three Kingdom. And it was like, okay, this is old. This is, in Japan it was the 9801 and the 8801. If you remember those machines. In the US, it's like, oh my God, if you can put it on Windows, I don't know. They don't ever use a mouse. What's wrong with the command line? But it was like, okay, you made it, you sell it. So I got to start Koei America with another gentleman, which is an amazing experience. Chalk up for better lucky than smart. Ran Koei America for a bit. Went to Activision. I could talk for hours about that, but joined Activision, which at the time was called Mediagenic, and was not particularly well run. Got sent to the Mediagenic Japan office to help out for a couple of months, which turned into a couple more months. then we changed ownership. The company overnight had a outing. It's a company outing. It's a really big company outing. You're out, and you're out, and you and your team out. And overnight went from like maybe 130 people worldwide to 6.
Whoa.
Yeah. I was told I could stay at Activision in Japan until they could find someone competent to replace me, which I thought was but you know what?
What?
Yeah.
Polite.
Those were the words that changed my life. I will tell Dickhead, who was my former boss who got fired, he's off the case. Try not to mess things up until I can find someone competent to replace you, which I took as a challenge. So went out, got a bunch of projects, made some money, and a year later I was managing director, and 10, 11 years later I was still running it. So it worked out just great. And, an Activision, which needed a thorough cleansing, went from this sort of zombie company to the world-beating, incredible Activision it is today. And it's really due to the genius of 2 men, Brian Kelly and Bobby Kotick. They're just really, really good at what they do. So anyway, was in Japan, time to come home. Parted with Activision, which was a really hard transition. And then, I took about 18 months, a year, I don't quite remember, in this country, did some other things, and then started Mastiff, which was in itself a rush and great, and it was a lot of fun, still is. And then, about a year and a half ago, it was like, what? Mastiff is great, but Mastiff is entirely a sort of corporate-facing organization. And by that I meant, we made a game, we put it in a box, then you'd sell it to one of about 10 customers. They're one of the big distributors, or some mixture of Best Buy, Amazon, GameStop, Walmart, Target, AFIS. If you're a military kid, you know what AFIS is, the military exchange. It all went to sort of one of those, and it's like, that's great, but how about some direct customer interaction? And it's like, okay, great, what can we do? And that's where it's like, what? Mastiff that is not what Mastiff is about. Mastiff is a developer publisher. We are not a retailer. We do not want to be a retailer. Stick to your knitting. But it's like, what? But we could also be a retailer online. And David was really excited about doing a business like that. And, I have immense respect for his thoughts. And it's like, yeah, you know what? We can pull it together. And so that kind of gets us to here. The only thing I'll add, and you and I discussed this before the tape started rolling, but I think it's cute, interesting, whatever, is, you're in Hawaii. Last time I was in Hawaii was to the day, or at least to yesterday. So the time difference, call it to the day. 20 years ago when I got married. My anniversary was yesterday. So it's kind of cool that I've now got this tie-in back to Hawaii.
Awesome.
Happy anniversary. I didn't even know that.
Happy anniversary.
David, you don't remember my wedding anniversary?
I know, God, I'm such a terrible.
I remember. So anyway, that's
yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, I don't know how to follow that up. I certainly don't have that incredible of a story.
Lies.
I really don't. That's really, just amazing. I started at Sony in QA, kind of worked up to one of the assistant leads there and working on iToy games back in the day at PS2. Left Sony and went up to Boomerang, kind of back to the parents' house, and they were living up in the mountains at the time, Sierras. Went to go work for a PR agency there. Just kind of started out, I heard there was a video game job up there, and I was like, wow, up all the way up here, what the hell? And it turned out to be the agency that was working with Guitar Hero at the time, which was, a little known game then, and they were just starting to send out Guitar Hero copies. And since I didn't have PR experience at the time, I kind of started out just reaching out, office manager kind of style, and I would manage, the office operations, making sure, almost secretarial like. And then I was also, tasked with reaching out to press, which was entirely wildly new to me at the time, just to get them the Guitar Hero copies. But I mean, that was such a blessing in disguise, because working with Guitar Hero, I mean, everybody was excited for that at the time. I mean, all the licensed songs, and it was just like a revolutionary peripheral at the time. Like, so that put me in good graces with a lot of press contacts. So I was immensely appreciative of that responsibility and that opportunity. And then as that went on, I stayed there for a few years and climbed to a PR manager. Had a team of interns working under me that would handle all the social media at the time, which was mainly forums. I mean, social media, this was like the early aughts, so social media wasn't as prevalent as it is now. YouTube was just getting started, and so we were brand new on trying to figure out how to do viral videos, and so I'd manage all this team of interns, make sure they're hitting the forums and talking about it, injecting themselves where they needed to be, and it was very pioneer days of community management almost. And so we learned as we went, and after that, I'd bounced back down to the Bay Area where I was originally from. I found an agency there in Dublin, California, which is like super close to kind of where I grew up. I found an agency there that handled SNK titles. And I think everybody in the world has a soft spot in their heart for SNK titles.
Except the Smash Brothers fans. They're the ones who didn't know who Terry Bogard was. They're like, who is this low rank kid wannabe? And I was like, oh my God, no.
Well, hey, it's an introduction for them, Then maybe down the line, a few years from now, you're going to be hearing those same people just be like, oh my God, I love Fatal Fury or Sam Show or whatever. So there you go. So, so I absolutely loved SNK titles and still do. I was always a big fan of Metal Slug and Samurai Showdown and Fatal Fury, the whole 9 yards. So I had gone to them and let them know who I was, where I was coming from, and that I was from the Bay Area. And it just saved me a lot of time to going to an agency that where I didn't have to make a full weekend trip out of press tours, which at the time were far more prevalent and easier to do when there were sites like 1UP and you could go to Wired, 1UP, GameStop, Destructo. You could hit all those guys in a day, or turn a weekend out of it because there were just so many Bay Area outlets at the time. Now it's sadly kind of dwindled quite a bit. So you either have to set up like a satellite kind of space to do a press tour, but I digress. At the time, it was really tough to go from the mountains all the way down to the Bay Area. Do like a 1 day press tour. You're just exhausted, wiped, and I saw an opportunity to go to a different agency, learn something else. And while at that agency, so I moved back down to the Bay Area, and at that agency, that's where I met this lovely gentleman right here, Bill, and we started our working relationship there, and with Mastiff, I got introduced to their titles. I think I came on board, Bill, probably right after you guys shipped Goodman PSP. And then we just ramped straight into the Wii titles, and the Wii was such a great, and I'm sure Bill could talk about this for days. It just lent itself so well to pull cues and fishing rods and rifles, and the Wii remote was just so versatile. So that's kind of where we got our start. We worked on some DS games, a slew of hunting and fishing games, and what were they called? Outdoor action line of games.
Yeah, exactly. It's a whole line. I mean, the whole idea is that you looked around and there was one brand of outdoor games that had gotten huge. And I'm stalling because I'm blanking on it. Cabela's, of course, Cabela's. And Cabela's had turned into Windows 92 or something. It was just all sorts of features, but impossible to play. And so we came out with the most simple outdoor games humanly possible. See the deer, you pull the trigger. That was the entire storyline. But they were fun and they were engaging and they worked. Sorry, David, I didn't interrupt.
Oh, no. I was saying the one right behind you, Deer Drive.
Oh, that is correct.
Yeah. It's not, the banner's not always there, so I probably forgot it there. But yeah, so spent some time there at the agency. So I had about at the time 6 years or so of PR. I'm asking Bill this, you should know better than I. 6 years of industry or gaming PR experience under my belt by that point. Then moved on to work a bit with Psyonix in San Diego for a little while. The project we were working on got scrapped, which was just a bummer. The developer, such a young kid at the time, was also ironically worked on a title that I had promoted with South Peak at Reverb at the time as a lead developer. Kid's a total genius. I mean, he could orchestrate the most crazy stuff and make it work, and he's brilliant with development and coding. So that game got scrapped, though. I guess they burnt through. They just way overshot their budget, and so it just Psyonix was doing the multiplayer aspect at the time, and it was a first-person shooter. I'm sure if you did a little digging online, you could probably find it. So that got scrapped, which meant my job got absolved, and just I wasn't needed for the time because I was actually acting as producer at the time, since I was familiar with the team working on supersonic rocket-powered acrobatic battle cars. It's the first time in like a decade I've stumbled on that name. So I worked on that with them, and then came back to the Bay Area, worked at Sega for a bit, and then worked with a very prominent visual novel publisher on Steam. Maybe we started talking then, I'm not sure. But worked with a visual novel publisher for a while.
I think we did, yeah.
The speed and rate they were turning out games or releasing games, though, was just insane. I mean, I did a full count of everything that all the pots that I had my hand in, just purely trying to do PR, trying to get, like IGN to cover visual novels or some of the bigger top tier sites to understand them, that they weren't just storybooks or something, and that there was meaning and content there. That some of the visual novels were, kind of like choose your own adventure style. And that a lot more went into them, and they weren't just for like, the weeb audience or the otaku audience or whatever. So trying to convey that message, but also trying to be like, hey, you have to release this next game in like a week. So at last count, it was like 26 games in 1 year that I was like working on. It's like, if you do the math, that's like 2 games, or that's like a game every other week. You have to prepare, write a press release, try to get coverage for, and it was just like, you're cannibalizing your games. Like, stop releasing them so fast. And just my feedback wasn't getting through, and so I was just like, enough is enough. And then at that time, it perfectly worked out. I mean, the planets were aligned, and Bill had actually came to me at the time, I think, and said, we have Goodham in 3D lined up. And I was like, oh my God, let's do it. Let's rock it. Let's knock it out of the park. And we got I think we got last count like 90 plus reviews for the game. Like, it was just insane. Like, we did full court. When I just went, excuse the expression, just balls to the wall nuts, with just blanketed coverage for the game, and as much as I could. And really, and I think it's a game that also people were asking for to come to a Nintendo platform. So it was just like it was a perfect time. It was just, and then from that point on, it's just, then we released a party game on Switch, or a multiplayer party game, I guess you can call it, Party Planet. And then we, gone on from there, then released a few games across PS4 and Xbox 360, and Home Sweet Home being one of the most recognizable. And that one was just a blast. That allowed me to kind of return to horror games. And I mean, working at Sega, I got to work on House of the Dead a bit. Rise of Nightmares, a little known Kinect title. Also from the same dev team who worked on House of the Dead. But I'm a big horror fan too. I love horror movies. Like, you see alien figures and then maybe a Jason hockey mask there. And actually, there's a Jason Friday the 13th Madball above me, and like Tales from the Crypt. Like, I love horror movies. Like, I'm a humongous horror movie fan. So working on Home Sweet Home, it was so awesome. Like, I love horror movies. I love horror games. Like, working on Deadly Premonition was super fun too. Not a lot, something that a lot of people know is just that it was a super polarizing title on 360. So taking that like controversy almost, if you will, and then spinning that and opening the gates as wide as you possibly could for the director's cut when that came around, that was a blast. I almost felt bad for Swery's translator, Tomio Kanazawa, at the time, because he was having to translate everything into English. And he was losing his voice at some point because we had so many interviews lined up for them over the course of 2 days that he just couldn't do it anymore. And I was just like, man, you are such a trooper. I'm so happy you're here to do this. And he wants to translate and he wants to promote the game, but God, we ran him ragged. And, and my hat, it goes off to Swery and Tomio for that. They were just total troopers going through that press tour. But anyway, yeah, I mean, and now we get Slayaway Camp, and so it's been a blast to work on horror games. And I guess that kind of brings us up to speed. So from Mastiff and then transitioning into Physicality, just saw an opportunity to do something great and try to do it better.
Awesome. And what would you guys say would be the Like that one catalyst moment that was like the deciding factor of we're going to create Physicality Games and bring more choices to gamers.
Bill, I'm not sure which side you're going to be on here.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to think, because there wasn't one moment. It was an ongoing force. You know, I think what we saw, I guess there's sort of a push and a pull. So part of the push was purely the dynamics of the business. You know, we lived in a world where, and I don't remember the exact number, you can Google it, but, you know, something like 85% of industry revenue, at least on the console side, will be done by the top 15 titles, and there'll be 4,000 titles released. That's insane when you think about it. And although we're very lucky, you know, we're probably one of the smallest, if not the smallest, of the fully viable, you know, fully in retail publishers. But, you know, every time we turned around, it just got more and more expensive. Now, when I say more and more expensive, we were still spending, you know, amounts of money on a product that was almost literally a catering budget, you know, for an EA or an Activision. But a lot of money. Getting on the shelves was getting more expensive. And in some ways less fun. You know, it used to be, you know, you made a game and it was always a collaboration. You made the game, you're like, wow, this is great. You know, you took it to your accounts, you got it in the store, people bought it, people told you what you thought they thought about it. You went back and forth with your fans. It's like, this is great. You did another one. And that was sort of really comfortable. But, you know, you get put in a position where on the one hand, you're competing against companies that have $200-400 million development budgets, and then $500 million marketing budgets. And so they're spending, you know, $600-800 million. You're talking now about more money that goes into major motion picture. Then some of them will make back $1 billion, you know, in the first 3 days. So that's over here. And it's like, well, this is really great. We really, really, really worked hard, and we managed to put $900,000 into this. You know, it's just no comparison. And then on the other hand, of course, you're competing with how many games are in the App Store right now? I literally don't know. You know, but literally millions. The average one of which will have, I think, 14 downloads. At one point, I think that was it, 14 downloads. And that means the developer downloads it a few times, maybe his family and friends download it a few times, and maybe a robot gets it. And those don't need to make money. You know, those are purely hobbies, except for the, you know, 5,000 that are serious business. So between these two, you know, where do you live? How do you compete? And we were really successful doing these really quality kind of niche-y titles. You know, Home Sweet Home being a good example. It's a really fun game. And it worked, and people bought it for what it was. But more and more, it really felt like, you know, we were doing Blair Witch Project against everyone else's, you know, the Avengers. And it's like, okay, if that's who you are and you want to continue making the Blair Witch Project, that was not long enough ago. I hope the audience knows what I'm talking about. But
it's fine. Take your time. You're good.
There is a movie recently in Japan, by the way, I think it's called One Cut Movie. Filmed over a weekend, same kind of idea. Everything was done in a single take. That met with a lot of success too. It's a little side note, but same idea as Blair Witch Project, was done on a shoestring, but was still managed to be real quality. So if we're going to continue doing these sort of indie games, but we want to access mainstream audiences, and, you know, retail is getting more and more expensive, and you're getting more and more squeezed there because, you know, the big retailers would rather carry 1,000 copies of the 10 biggest games rather than 100 copies of the 100 good games. What do you do? It's like, okay, well, why don't we try our hand at being a retailer? You know, I hate to say how hard can it be, because that's famous last words, but that was almost the thought. You know, it would be really great to have direct relationships with our buyers. And I think that emotion had been building for probably 5 years. I guess if there was one moment for me, and I think David probably has a really different kind of take on this, where it's like, okay, great. It goes back to the Google Sprint book, which really laid out what I thought was a great methodology for quickly planning a new company. And it's like, okay, well, we've sort of been wanting to do this. No one here knows anything about. Well, that's not true. I mean, we've all actually. I think everyone in the company at some point has had some brief sort of retail job, but that doesn't mean you know how to run a retailer. And so, as a company, I think without diminishing anyone, I can say we knew nothing about retail. But it's like, okay, fine, we'll follow this blueprint. We'll kind of game it out. We'll give it a shot. And that's sort of how it happened. But it was no aha moment, at least not for me.
Yeah, I think that's kind of fair.
Okay.
But when we did start, I will add that when we did start kind of pitching the idea around, and we were kind of discussed this a bit before, was the whole trying to get a game too was becoming at the time increasingly difficult. And I don't mean like a AAA title or something. I mean like with the direct digital to physical retailers online was becoming super hard, and it was just getting really frustrating, not only for myself as a gamer, where, as I had mentioned to you before, we kind of started was I was placing Post-it notes on my monitor, just finding like a product that was in stock so I could find the add to cart buttons and find the checkout button to get to that checkout screen where I knew the button was going to be. And I didn't like battling it. Like it sold out faster than I could get it. And it's like, well, what are your options? Like your options, go to eBay, go to the Facebook group or something and try to buy one for 3 times, 4 times the price. It's like, what? It's like, no, if I want a game, I want to be able to buy a game. I want to be able to get it, like at the price it's being sold for, not for crazy. I'm not trying to like buy like Magic Knight Ray Earth or something on Saturn that's not made anymore. Then I have to turn to a small mom and pop shop or something. It's a current gen console game. Like you just made it. Why do I have to pay like $100 for it on eBay now? So, and that was another that was my light bulb moment for me. Like that was just like, okay, this sucks. Like let's try to fix this.
Okay. Do you guys feel like with the shift in the gaming landscape, like with this more of a push towards digital and then with less and less retailer options being made available, do you guys think that not only for yourselves with Physicality Games, but like the industry as a whole, do you think this is going to impact like the entire industry, like this digital push, I guess you could say?
Yes and no. And the obvious big picture answers was when you aggregate the statistics, of course it will. I mean, now it really like sucks to be GameStop. And their stock price, I think, reflects that. So obviously, yeah, it's a huge change in channel. I think it's probably going to favor certain players. It's going to hurt other players. If you're a Microsoft or even a Google stockholder, or for that matter, Sony stockholder, you're probably laughing all the way to the bank. But there is one other big side of it that is really easy to forget about. And that's the sheer scale of the industry. And that expresses itself in kind of weird ways. So for one of my favorite fun facts that's both true and profoundly meaningful is that up until you get into sort of the million unit seller category, there is literally no correlation between the number of units of a title you will sell and the number of units in the installed base of the target platform. So it doesn't matter if you're on a platform that has 24 million installed units or 3 million installed units. It's utterly irrelevant until such time, of course, as you get into the million unit seller, and then of course the number of game consoles out there sort of caps it out. But usually you don't have that problem, and the reason for that is the whole ecosystem is so big that you're kind of speaking to an audience or you're not. So, I mean, for a long time, 5 years after the Sega Saturn went away, there were shooting games that would come out every year and sell 50,000 units, It shows a lot of gravity. And that's because there were still such a big universe of hardware floating around that, and a demand for it that there'd be enough people to soak up 50,000 units at full price. And, same thing sort of for physicality and for physical games and what we offer. Our audience buys our games for a bunch of different reasons. Some are collectors who just really like having it on their shelves. And, that's one of the reasons. Tend to get up and grab one. Why we work so hard on it. Actually, I will. Can you hang on 1 second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Here we go.
It's like rummaging through stuff.
So these are empty. The games are in them. That's why we've worked really hard on things like these tins. You know, you're not going to.
I got one right here in my desk.
Yeah, you're not going to have a crushed box with this. Believe me.
Nice.
Check out the display window. Again, this one happens to be in. There you go.
Rolling Gunner one.
There you go. Exactly.
Nice.
So some of our customers are collectors, and they want it because it's just beautiful and they like having it, and that's great. Some of our customers are what we call frugal gamers, and they want it as a physical copy, either because they know that at some point if they get bored with it, they can sell the physical copy, which you can't do with a digital download, or because they don't plan on selling it, but they also know that if they download it to their machine and then they upgrade the machine or the machine breaks or whatever, they may well lose the game. And they like having, the physical thing that they can just reinstall at any time. And then some gamers are a mixture of all of the above. But, the fact is, because it is such a big universe, as the world goes to streaming, which it will inevitably, I think there's going to be demand for physical product for, those two sets of reasons for quite a while.
Okay.
I think, and I do think that gaming history repeats itself in a sense that you're going to take something away and it'll have its resurgence. As you see a lot of like SNK, like the shock box style of thing coming back, and there's demand for it. Like people are like, yes, I want this. So eventually you're probably going to see a lot more reprints and recreations of older gen games too. I bet. I Am 8-Bit, they're doing that. They're doing a kick-ass job with that. With their SNES or their Super Nintendo carts. There'll always be a demand for physical media from if it's smaller, a very loud, small group. Sadly, retail, I don't think is ever going to be what it once was. I mean, I look at like Fry's now and all these other big retailers kind of like closing up, and it breaks my heart, dude. Like I walked into a Fry's before this whole thing happened recently. And every time I would go into one, and even when Toys R Us was kind of going down, I would just buy something just because I wanted to support. It wasn't going to change the world for them, but I just wanted. It made me feel good, like to support Noah supporting physical media still, and their partners too. And so I went and bought like the Maniac on Steelbook on Blu-ray or something, and just from Fry's. But when I went in there, it honest to God gave me a lump in my throat. Like I hate seeing retail die like that, like retail stores. It's like, I'd spend whenever I'd have a break in school, like if I had a couple hours break at college, like I would go to Fry's and just browse through horror movies. Like, and it seriously breaks my heart knowing that kids, growing up now just won't have that opportunity anymore. But where there is a will, there definitely and most certainly is a way. And I definitely commend everybody in the space, limited run, strictly limited, super rare, special reserve, Game Fairy, all these companies that are trying to keep media alive. Like there's totally room for everyone in this pot. Like, and I love, it's a bummer when it's like, oh, they announced that game. It's like, damn, I wanted that game to pick that game up for us or whatever. But it's getting made. It's getting a physical copy. Like how cool is that? Like it's still there's still demand for it. So. There are people, and you see them all the time. Like if you go to Slick Deals at all ever, like that are like super like why does physical matter? I can pick this game up on the eShop for like 5 cents, and the eShop has just been, and I'll quote our community manager Brielle on this one, a race to the bottom, and it's so true. Like you look at these games, it's just like why is everybody trying to outdo one another like by putting their games on sale for pennies? And it's just like you get a blip on the popular games, but who's going to remember the publisher and developer behind that? Nobody.
Yeah.
They might remember the game. They might be like, oh, I picked this shit up for, I picked this up.
No, you can swear. It's fine.
For like 10 cents. And it's just like, cool, but what is that conditioning players to do?
Yeah.
Buy games for 10 cents. So, and then when something physical comes out, you have that argument of, well, why should I pay $30 for this game that you busted your ass to make when I can pick it up for 10 cents? And it's like, why do people do that?
These are people who are happy to spend, $6 at Pete's on a cup of coffee.
in the same vein. It's very true. Very, very, very true. Myself included. I mean, I'm not gonna nail myself to a cross here. I'm guilty of buying games for pennies. I won't shy away from that. But if an opportunity to pick up a physical copy comes around, hell yeah, I'm gonna do it. Like, you bet. Like, I mean, granted, my backlog is growing by the week, but I love physical media. Like, I love buying DVDs. Yeah, I love collecting steelbooks. I love toys and crap. Like, I mean, maybe I'll have some crazy Pharaoh style underground tomb with all this shit buried with me, but I don't know what I'm gonna do with all of it. But do I get joy out of it? Yeah, it's temporary. Sure, it's material, but I do love physical media, and that's that goes into our passion too for Physicality Games. But a very long-winded response again. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. My coffee must have kicked in hard late. But I do think there's always going to be a market for physical media. I do.
No, it's fine. I see, these are the type of conversations I enjoy, like the organic conversation where we can, I guess, can just talk openly about things and we can just go from there. We'll branch wherever it goes. And, I'm glad you brought up, like, the eShop as an example, because I know a lot of gamers that have this mentality, especially like when I review a game, or I know other content creators that review games or journalists, and we'll frequently get asked like, "Oh, is this worth the money? Should I just wait for a sale?" And you have a lot of people that really think that, "Oh, this game comes out, I'm not gonna buy it." And I'm not telling people what to do with their money. Their money, their choice, but it's really something when I see the mentality of a lot of gamers where, and maybe there's a bias for me because I know so many people in the industry, so many people that work on games, and I've had the opportunity to work with Capcom for Resident Evil 3 remake, them coming out here doing recording for the audio, the voiceover, and other things. Just seeing the amount of work that goes into making a game, and then seeing, I guess, the people who would buy the end product be like, "Oh, that was a cheap cash grab." It's
painful. Like, it's like you do know how much goes into this stuff, right?
Yeah.
No, I totally understand, and that's exactly right. Like, it's like, if you want to support the developer, if you want to support the game, pick it up. Like, don't wait till it goes down to $3 or $2 or pennies. If you want to wait for a sale till it's 10-20% off, cool, go for it. Like, I don't, if you're interested in it and you have that core impulse, like, just do it. Like, don't question it. It's what are you going to lose if you're living? And I feel bad almost if you're living your life worried about. And granted, everybody doesn't have the same budget or the same, leisurely and the money they can leisurely spend. But if you're looking at video games in the first place, you're not in a financially stable spot, maybe you should not be looking at video games and focus on other important things. But I'm not going to point fingers, but maybe that support what you want to support. If you like a game, pick it up. If you want to support the publisher, developer, help them at its prime, when it counts most. Don't wait until they have to resort to desperate measures just to compete with either triple A's or another game that's doing the whole penny just to get the spotlight feature, penny sales to get the spotlight feature, when they're just like, well, my game's not selling because I'm trying to be competitive as best I can with my budget as a developer, and I can't decrease my margins to 10% because I'm making a fraction of a penny off each sale. That doesn't work for my budget, so I have to stick to 10% off or 20% off. And then, you're looking at all these other games running rampant on the eShop just so they can get a little bit of boost of coverage because there's no marketing on the eShop really. And they took out the, game reviews and all these other features. I'm not bagging on Nintendo for this. I'm just saying it's kind of just a rough, rugged style to get attention to your game on the eShop. So, so I'm just saying, support what you love. If you have to, don't wait until the game goes on sale for 90% off. Pick it up. You're supporting the industry. Play the game. If you don't like it, then cut the loss. You didn't buy a Mercedes like that. So
it really, like, the other thing with that too is like I know a lot of gamers, they'll wait till a game is like 90% off, 75% off, 80% off, and then they'll get it and they're like, oh, I wonder why people didn't play this game. I wonder why it didn't get a sequel. And I'm like, really?
That's exactly my point. Yeah, very true. And I hate to say, I hope I don't come off like an ass about all that.
No.
It's just something like, yeah, it makes me scratch my head. And if you probably blasted through my Twitter wall, I probably asked that question like 50 times, like why are people doing this to themselves? You're just classically conditioning players to wait for sales. And of course, Steam is the biggest culprit of all this. But at one point, Steam had reasonable sales, and then all the games on the eShop, when they just started dipping, like extreme dipping, then you have to reflect that on Steam too, because then Steam has to compete with that. And especially if it's a kind of a console agnostic title where it's on multiple platforms, you have to compete with those sales prices. And then every time we do, like we just did an un-Halloween sale for with Microsoft for Home Sweet Home. And you should have seen my face for like that whole week, just like thinking about how much do we discount it? How much is will Dead by Daylight or Outlast? How much of those games going to be what's the discount going to look like for them? Are we going to shoot ourselves in the foot if we don't put it on sale for 75% off or something? So then it becomes a struggle too. So you have to think like about what other developers and publishers are going through too, just thinking that, well, my game's not selling because I'm trying to put it on sale and do something good for 10% off, 20% off. But these other publishers, developers who have capacity and bandwidth to put their games on sale for 90% off or 75, it makes those other publishers look bad.
Yeah.
Or just like, oh, why isn't this game 75% off? They can do it. And it's just not always that black and white. So it's like, just support what you like, Don't wait for those crazy deep discount sales.
Exactly. And, leading into my next question, like, with there being other outlets, for getting special editions, collector's editions for games, you got, like I said before, PlayAsia, you got limited run games, you got strictly limited. Like, in your own words, for both of you, like, what makes Physicality Games the go-to choice for gamers?
I would say, so first off, I expect gamers to buy the products they want. Go to whoever has the good products. Number one and first most is because the games are compelling. The experience is compelling. It's great games. It's great packaging. Our deluxe editions are second to none. It's not like you hand us your money and then you get something or whatever back. I mean, you're doing it because you want to get a product, and our products are great across the board. That's most important. Then after that, it is the softer things. I think our community is kind of a big deal. The ability to follow people with similar tastes, see what they bought, buy the same thing. Although I don't think it's enough to make a purchase decision. The fact that we are out of our own pocket, which is kind of hard sometimes, willing to give to charity as a way of saying thank you, a charity of the buyer's choice, I should add. And we have 1.5 million charities in the database, which is a lot. Because we'll give to charity out of our own pocket as a way of thanking you for buying. That's kind of a big deal. And one other thing that I think should tip the scales a little bit is the fact we're making it really easy. We're not asking for the purchase price. We're asking for a $5 deposit. And then, when we get ready to hit manufacture, we'll ask you for the balance. But it's not like virtually every other company out there where it's like, well, give me, 50, 60, 70, 120, $200 right now, and you'll get a game at some undetermined point in the future. It's like, no, give us $5. We'll get these out to you as quickly as possible. If you're interested in the details, go to our website, physicalitygames.com, and look at the product status page. I mean, that's linked right off our internal product management system. You can see where the art is in the process. You can see where the code is. I mean, it's kind of a mini course in game development and manufacture. It's all transparently there. And you're only putting down $5 anyway. I think that should be a big incentive. And lastly, and you're just going to have to take my word for it until you get involved, is a culture. We really do everything we can to take care of our customers. We are grateful for their business. We will treat them well and with respect. and their support of us not only gets them, really great games, not an empty box like I have but it allows us to continue putting out great games and great deluxe editions.
Okay.
And I will add that there has been, and I'll be 100% honest, skepticism with the community because they're, are they uncertain of getting a game maybe because the way our system works. And we, over the last 2 months since we launched the site, or first initially launched the site in like a soft launch phase at the end of March, we learned a lot. We took all that feedback from the community, everything that came in. It was extremely considered. I mean, we battled ourselves internally, like at full length and discussion on calls daily, on Discord, on phone, on talking about, can we implement this? Does this make sense? Everything went to a vote. We all speak. I mean, there's no real. We don't stick to a very rigid structure of like, this person's at the top, this person's here. Everybody, and Bill is, I commend Bill of all people for, Mastiff and Physicality speaks with one voice, but we all have, a good amount of say in the company. If something makes sense, you could be, we don't have a shipping department per se, but you could be in shipping and receiving, and like just be like, oh, I have something to say. Hey, you bet your ass we'll listen to it. Like we want to make that super, super clear. And that's one of the things challenges as coming from PR marketing background is, and then I will admit full fault to this is we focus so much on the products, on making sure the game was like perfectly aligned in the 10 window or running that 10, like you have no idea how hard these 10s are to get approval on, by the way. Whew. Getting approval from Nintendo, which is a whole nother battle in itself. I mean, we went to Nintendo with these 10s. We went to, flew up there, presented what we had to them, and we got their buy off on the 10s. Like you've never seen these before. You might have seen a steelbook in Best Buy or something, but seeing a game in a 10 with a window to present your game, never. It's always been like a cardboard box with plastic or something. And we fought for these because like we thought they were really kick ass. And getting that messaging out that to bring this around, we spent a lot of time on the products and the goods and code submission, and on the product status page we're being super hyper transparent about this. I mean, it's an unrivaled amount of detail, and you bet your butt, like if people come back to us and say they want more detail, happily give it to them. Like I think Bill and our social media manager Brielle fought me on this because I wanted more detail. Like, and they're like, "Well, you're being way too granular right now." And I was like, "Yeah, you're right. We are." Because I was like, "Oh, the 10 lid is approved, or like the art on this has been approved." And I'm such a stickler for detail myself. So everything that we've been working on has, had the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted. We spent such a long time focusing on that now we really have to pick up the actual marketing aspects, the actual PR aspects of the site, and really, have a laser focus on that stuff. But one of the communication points that I feel like I personally have failed on is really establishing that, Mastiff as is the physical publisher behind all these games on Physicality. One of the things I feel like I failed at is really communicating that with our audience and our fans. It's like nobody's trying to pull the wool over your eyes or pull a fast one on you. It's like we have a long history of getting games in retail, publishing games, of being publisher developer. It's like we want to see these games made, and we have the know-how, the experience, the skill sets to get them made. I just realized I was hitting my desk and shaking the camera, and it was like, but yeah, we're super hyper passionate about everything we have, and I really, really, really can't wait to like expand upon some of the features now that the grand opening is kind of here. Expanding upon the community features, which we'll be running a little contest for soon. But I'm like hyper excited to see people build out their profiles and actually use them to their full potential. I mean, they have so much potential. Like, I can't wait till it gets to the point where people are recognizing what the community features hold for them. It's like you have an ability to copy your link to your profile, add your full set of PSN ID, your Xbox tag, your Steam ID, your Nintendo friend code, and all your social platforms. So you can blast that link to your profile everywhere. It's like it has all of your stuff in one spot. It's like a digital gamer business card of sorts. So once people start understanding that, we get the message out. I think the site has a lot of potential to really resonate.
Okay, cool,
Yeah.
cool.
So
it has to.
Yeah.
No, so one of the things like I definitely want to ask about is like with the grand opening, like how has that been so far? Like I know it's been a long week. It's been many months and years of build up towards this grand opening. How does it feel? Like has a lot of the stress come off, or has it been, like how has that been for you guys?
I'll keep this one super hyper short.
No, dude, don't limit yourself.
It feels like a weight's been lifted, but at the same time, we pull back the curtains.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're playing like, oh, we got to clean up the tape where we had that person masking and standing on the stage. You got to do all the fine tuning and now the show starts really.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yes, we got past the start line. That's the start line. It's like now we have the race ahead of us.
Yeah, honestly. I would say it was about 5 minutes of thinking, wow, this is great. Oh, yeah, some people notice this is great. And then after that, it was just right back to making it work.
Yeah.
Doing it every day.
Okay.
No, which is awesome. I mean, I would love to do it every day. It's like, but keeping the train, the coal in the engine, keeping it running and going, that's going to be the biggest priority for all of us now.
Okay. And one of the other things like I want to go back towards is one of the things that you guys are doing differently than any of your competitors, which is very, very, I would say in a way, it's disrupting the market in a positive way, is with the ability to do a $5 deposit. Like that right there, like how do you guys feel? I can see how it's disrupting the market in the sense of like people are like, whoa, is this real? Like I've got like before we did the show, like when I was reaching out to my community, there was a lot of questions. They're like, is this real? Are they really doing that? I'm like, yeah, go to the website, physicalitygames.com.
Yes.
So it's like, how do you guys feel about making that decision, and what are you seeing as far as like the competition, how people are being receptive to that?
I'm going to answer really bluntly and say I feel like an effing idiot we didn't do that much sooner. It was the honest thing to do. It's completely consistent with our values. And the fact is, we're not going to touch the money we receive for a product until we ship the product anyway. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if anything, it's better because I don't have to be responsible for holding someone else's money that, I'm not going to spend. So no, I feel great about it. Like I say, it's a great move. I just wish we'd done it, from soft launch day one.
Unfortunate, but as I was saying, like I really love, there to be room for everyone and everybody to have fun. But yeah, I thought it was for sure the right move to do the $5 thingy too, especially at a time when money is tight for everybody. Everybody still wants to spend and buy buy cool items and stuff. And not be overwhelmed either by product. It's not our intention to friggin' exhaust our customers, our fans. It's like rapid fire releasing. It's just to try to soak up their funds and just be like, well, I can't spend because I already spent $500 on this site. It's just like, not our intention. It's like we just want to make cool games and release them at a that was another thing is customer fatigue is super real. When we did our focus test, that was one of the biggest complaints we received was, I just don't I can't keep up with the number of releases that some of these people are churning out. There's collectors, that want to have complete sets or want to own everything, but it just comes so hard because the financial strain on them is huge right now. So taking all that to consideration, and talking internally between all of us. That was one of the things that arose from that was like, how do you ease financial strain on people right now? And it's just like, boom, why are we sitting on people's pre-orders right now? Let's give them an opportunity to just like relax a bit. How about $5 down? Like, with GameStop, the game is getting made. It's, you'll put your $5 pre-order in, it's going to be in a GameStop. So sometimes, and people have kind of gotten wise to that. It's just like, why am I pre-ordering? I'm not getting any major benefit. Back in the day, like you'd go into a Funko or wherever, and $5 pre-order got you some cool cool stuff. So like there's a Chrono Cross clock above me, right? Damn it, there.
I see it.
So that was a pre-order item. Like there was some cool stuff included with pre-orders. So that it made sense to throw $5 down. Now it's like if you go into a GameStop to throw a $5 pre-order, it's like, why? Now you're going to get it. The only opportunity I might have is not getting a gutted copy. Like
I have stories about that.
The last 3 games I've ordered from GameStop with their pickup delivery service thingy now have all been gutted copies. I'm just like,
but they're brand new.
It's like I want to open it on my time though. So I'm going to open it anyway. I don't mind. The only reason like I don't open games sometimes is if it's like a cool shmup, like a cool deluxe edition or a collector's edition that I really like and I want to buy 2 of them, so I'll keep one side. Or if it's or I just forget. Like you're speaking of Resident Evil 3, and I was like, oh yeah. I was telling my significant other the other day. I don't remember what brought it up. But I was going into like my game closet and I was like just looking through the games. Oh, I think I was looking for a copy of R-Type Delta. I was checking out one of our God, I'm such a horrible person for going on so many tangents. Local GameStop, because I was talking to them on Facebook because I wanted to see if they're open. And I was like, damn, I can't wait to go back and like go buy some games for them. And it's Fair Game in Carmichael, California. So I was talking to them online and on Facebook, and I really wanted to go and buy some games, and they're like, oh, we have our online portal. I was like, dude, I didn't even know you had an online site. Awesome. So I saw they had R-Type Delta, and I was like, do I even have that? Like, I was like, do I have to ask myself that? It's horrible. I have to ask myself if I have a game. So I went down and looked through, combed through my PlayStation games. I didn't have it. So I was like, oh man, I should buy it. And I saw that I had Resident Evil 3 still sealed on PS1. I was like, oh yeah, I never got to this game. Like I played through 1 and 2 on the OG PlayStation, and then I guess there's some games that I have that I just forget to open. I'm just like, oh yeah. So now they're like cool collector's items to me. But going back to the pre-order thing, it's just it made sense. It really did. There's no reason to hold on to a full deposit. If people want to put a full deposit down, they totally can. But it comes it came at a right time. We don't need to be holding on to all that money right now anyway. So if you want to throw down $5, throw down $5. It makes it easier and helps us reach numbers to get these things into production.
I mean, if I was going to put it in marketing speak, I would say it's all about reducing friction. What makes it hard to order? Tying up people's money. Let's not tie up their money. What makes it hard to order? Well, they're not really sure if the game is coming. Well, okay, let's just, because we got nothing to hide, go full Monty here and show our internal product tracking system. Check it out. Oh, okay. What makes it hard to order? Shipping. Well, okay, we've worked really hard to lower our shipping costs. We're moving to flat rate shipping. We haven't been able to implement it yet on everything, but we're moving towards it. What makes it hard to order? We don't see clear screenshots. Great. So we revamped all that. We now got great screenshots. What makes it hard to order? Oh, it's really confusing to enter your information. Fine, we'll fix that. I mean, I'm going to go on my own very quick tangent and
go for it.
I read an amazing book. It's called the Everything Store, the Anything Store, and it's a story of Amazon, written by a guy with great access to Jeff Bezos. Highly recommend it. But one of the things that really strikes you very, very early on is the extent to which that organization is about the customer. From the earliest meetings, Jeff Bezos would insist that he was not screwing around. He meant it. And if you don't want to do it, then maybe you don't want to work there. That you have a meeting, you have an empty chair at the table. And that empty chair was for the customer. And even if there's no one sitting in it, you got to remember that's where the customer sat. And we're certainly not Amazon, we're certainly not Jeff Bezos, but that's the right kind of thinking. It all has to start and end with the customer. And if you can take care of the customer, everything else is going to take care of itself.
Yeah.
And since we're on the topic, I wanted to ask about the core values of Physicality Games and the Physicality Guarantee. Like, let's dive into it.
Okay. Core values are, quality. Obviously, great games, no filler, and the highest quality deluxe editions on the market. And in all honesty, I think we've achieved that. Community. That's shared gaming interests, find friends. Just go to our site, physicalitygames.com, and click on the community tab. Charity and kindness. And that one is a little squishier, but charity is really simple. Go to Physicality, buy a game, pick a charity you like, and our database has 1.5 million. That's an exaggeration. It's not an exact number. It's something like 1.5 million charities in it. And we will, from our own pocket, give a % of sales to that. And then kindness, and that's an attitude. There's no way we can, pack it up and measure it, but we've just heard too many horror stories or experienced too many horror stories about sort of physical edition publishers who kind of take their customers for granted. Your CD case came broken, not our problem. You didn't receive your goods? Well, I think you probably did. I think you're probably lying, so I'm not going to help you. Whatever it is. And it's like, no, these are your customers. You have to treat them as such. Those are pretty much our values.
Yeah, and that whole thing, the customer service thing applies to everything. Not just video games. God, it's so wide. It's just, I've seen so many and experienced myself as a customer, so many negative responses to customer service. It's just like, or you walk into a retail store, it's just like, wait, you can't price match this, you can't you can't return this. Why? And it's just like the responses you would get is just, no, I'm not having it. We're completely not like that. In our terms of service or FAQs, do we accept returns? No, but are there exceptions? Yeah. It's like if people reach out to us and ask for a refund or something chances are we'll probably grant it to you if it's not like I sat my elbow down and hit order, add to cart, hit order. But some people have said, hey, I'm a little more financially strapped. This whole thing hit me right now really hard. Yeah, give you a refund, or hey, my slipcase or my cover sheet came ripped in a game. Would we give them send out a new one in a heartbeat for sure? There's no reason not to. It's like what cost you $1 in 5 minutes is, someone who could just go online or something and you just give them a warm feeling, like a welcome feeling, and that that ties back into community. And that's the kind of the vibe I wanna have come from us. And what I'm really shooting for. So,
absolutely. I would just go on and say, you look at the retail. There's only two kinds of retailers that are succeeding. You can either go to the very, very bottom and offer really lousy, really good prices, really lousy everything else. That kind of works. Dollar General, for example. Dollar General, arguably. Or you can go, Amazon, Costco, Nordstrom's. And, between the two, I know which one I'd rather be. I know which one I'd rather shop at.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, all three of those are, awesome customer service. How many times do you see people tell oh, Nordstrom's returns anything, or Costco returns anything, or Amazon, and look how much more business they pull in too. It's just an uncanny amount. So
those are success stories. So, if you're trying to sell commodity goods for the very, very, very cheapest price, you can kind of, sort of, maybe not do that, but that's not what we're about. It's not what we want to do, and it's not suitable for our audiences. We're selling an experience. We're selling a hobby. We're selling fun. It better be a good experience, start to finish.
Yeah. Okay. Would you guys mind speaking on Physicality Gives and how purchases may go to 501c3 of the purchaser's choice?
Yeah. You got it?
You can do it. All
right. Tag team. So, and I think you have a URL yourself. So yeah, we kind of adopted one of the biggest things we started almost initially with Physicality was charity. Before it was even called Physicality, the very, very infantile stages of the site, charity was always a big feature that we wanted to include. And we didn't want to, this comes from largely borrowed from Humble Bundle. I loved what they did. That was brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and I was such a strong supporter of that. And God, for the longest time, every time a new Humble Bundle popped up, I was like, poof, I was there in a heartbeat. And it was cool to support all the different charities they had, and you learn about so many different charities too. So charity was always a big aspect to it. So we kind of, worked through it and figured out how do we do charity with Physicality. That kind of came from like, we don't want to ask the customer or the fan to come to us, then to get for us to ask them to give more money. It's like, no, we need to be doing it. Like, we need to be the ones that are giving a charity on their behalf. So they select the charity. So we partnered with Shopping Gives, and then we have access to like 1.5 million or however many million 501c3 charities. So they're all legitimate organizations, nonprofits. And so when you pre-order a game from us now, you see a little widget, kind of like to the right, to the add a cart button, and you can go in there and select either one of 3 of our featured charities, and those rotate every other week. We'll rotate them. Right now, there should be a 2x multiplier. So kind of it's like a how Call of Duty or whatever those shooters have like double skins. We can do that with our charities. And so right now, as a part of the grand opening, we're doing a 2x charity multiplier. So if you select one of our featured charities, then we'll donate twice the amount. So it was always a big thing for us to have our own kind of charitable aspect and not ask the customer to donate, not ask our partners to donate, but have it come straight from us. So it's like, if you feel strongly about something, donate to that cause. Let us pull out of our pockets and donate to that cause for you. So that's what we're, and we're reaching out to, press and content creators, influencers, and, if they feel strongly about charities, we'll happily provide them one. So their charities are, readily accessible to their audience too. That's something they feel strong about.
Awesome. And, winding down to the last couple of questions and being incredibly respectful for you guys' time.
Hey, thank you. My God.
Incredibly generous with you.
So one of the things I'm curious about for both of you, like in both your roles as President and CEO Bill Swartz, and as yours as Marketing Manager David, what is like I guess prior to COVID-19 and post COVID-19, like what is like a day-to-day like for each of you in your roles?
You want me to start?
Yeah, because I'm super curious to see what you're going to say first.
It's really challenging. I mean, sometimes our cook puts breakfast out on the veranda. Sometimes the maid puts it in the formal dining room. Sometimes we eat it in the dining kitchen, and sometimes in the breakfast nook. So I never know where my next meal is coming from.
This is why I asked you to go first. I figured you were going to start.
It's a Friday, and I just do not have enough blood. I have too much blood in my caffeine system right now. It varies a little bit. Even before COVID-19, we were largely working from home, although I have workspaces down the street that I try to go into once or twice a week, although much less than that. But if I'm going to make up a typical day, I get up in the old days up until March. I had a gym I went to. I was always there for a 6 a.m. class. That's now a distant memory. So I now have a mat in our guest room. Do that, shower. What's that?
You're getting detailed.
Yeah, it's maybe too detailed. Shower. I actually a bad habit probably, but I always just scan my email and say, are there any emergencies? Is there anything going on right now, especially in Japan because of the time difference that requires me to drop everything and just deal with it. So emergency scan. From there, if I'm being smart and disciplined, I'll look at the gaming sites. From there, gosh, this is where it really gets sort of messed up. Occasionally I'll actually play a game, before 9. Sort of whatever random stuff happens. Then from 9 to 12, usually I do a lot of sort of salesy stuff and a lot of type stuff. So there's usually 2 or 3 phone calls. Sometimes there's a Zoom meeting. Lunch, afternoon. Frequently, I'm probably talking to David at least once in the morning, usually more than that. We also have a Discord system. I sometimes just mute it, because if you're not careful, it can turn into an endless all-day meeting, agenda. And
I with great strength it took for me to close it, actually, just so while we're doing this, I don't want to blip a bunch.
Yeah, it's really useful and semi-real time. It can get a bit distracting. Afternoon, I hate to say it's more of the same, but it's different every day. I try to spend time not reacting to email or administrivia, but strategically thinking. Where should we head, and what are the things that really matter? Sometimes I do that. Often I don't. I mean, to be a perfect leader, you should really be able to focus on that. It's something I'm working on. We have a staff meeting Mondays through Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Don't do Fridays, because Friday is Saturday in Japan.
Off the hook today.
What's that?
That I'm off the hook today.
Yeah, exactly. And after that, often there's a Japan meeting because of the time difference, and that's at 6.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I've really answered your question, because everybody's a bit different. But that's sort of a fairly typical day. In the old days, especially when we were doing a lot of retail stuff, I was probably on an airplane close to once a month.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, just go out, fly to Grapevine and meet GameStop, or, go to Arkansas, see Walmart or whatever. And that was always really good. Also, meeting with developers, used to do that in person a fair amount. Often domestic, although we used to do a bunch of stuff in Poland, and of course a bunch of stuff in Japan. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure all this interview will end and it'll be like, oh my God, I could have had a V8. I mean, oh my God, this cool thing. But I mean, I guess the short answer is it's a mix of trying to come up with new stuff, talking to my friends at the company, and managing events as they happen. Ideally, you're always going to be more proactive than reactive in reality, especially at a small company, where it's not like the art director gets 15 minutes of time for the marketing manager's time, and the marketing manager makes a selection based on the 3 options the art director presented, and then presents 2 of those to the boss, and he picks that one. And Steve Jobs loved to do that. It's like, look, guys, I want you to put 5 versions on my desk, and I'll pick which one. That's the way he kind of operated.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we don't do that. We sit around saying, well, can we have that in orange mauve? And what if you made it square?
God, that's so me.
Well, it makes you brilliant. So anyway, I don't know if that's an adequate answer, but that's kind of what it is.
Oh, I dig it.
Pretty close. Yeah, pretty close. See, Bill I give Bill the advantage of playing a game in the morning, because my ass wakes up a little late. But I do sleep sometimes.
I'm jealous.
And if I'm blinking a lot, I'm sorry. I just realized I've been blinking like 90 times a minute because I have a fan on in here because it's hot up in SAC. But the air keeps getting in my eyes, and I'm like, man, I hope people don't think I'm lying about what I'm talking about or something. Blinking a lot, is that like a tell? It's just like I have a fan on in the room, and I keep blinking because the air's being forced in my eyes. But
don't feel bad. I actually had to cut on the air conditioning because, not only is it hot, it's also I have a spotlight on, so I'm like,
oh yeah, that's true. I realize I look like a freaking ghost compared to you guys, like with those lights. I never get out. My car battery dies because I don't actually get to drive anywhere anymore now, or I never leave the house. And largely in part, we've been so hard at work on everything. No BS. My car. How many times has my car battery died now, Bill? The last year.
I should buy you a trickle charger.
I have one. I always forget to I'm a big car dude too. I love my Mazda. She's my garage queen. But she never. It's like I put so much money and time into this car that I don't even drive it. It's just I like making her powerful and strong. But then I'm like, oh, I don't want to take you out on the road yet, baby. But yeah, the car battery will die. It's God damn it. Anyway, the day-to-day stuff. So day-to-day, yeah. I mean, I usually wind up staying up super, super, super late. And there was a time when we're working diligently on Home Sweet Home and Arcade Islands, and heavy fire and stuff, where it made sense to stay up late, because then if Mika had a question or something, we could answer it like right away. Then we could talk to YGG, the developers. Oh my God, these people are so talented behind Home Sweet Home. Just a little backstory. They were, what are they, an ad agency or something? Or they're creative design for ads and commercials?
Well, they're an animation house, basically high-end animation that does a lot of commercial work. But basically, if it's Asian and it's really good and it's animated, very good chance it came out of YGG.
Like Toyota commercials and stuff like.
Whoa.
And I guess one of the directors was a really, really big fan, or is a really big fan of Silent Hill and Resident Evil, and he's like, let's make a game. So that's how they made Home Sweet Home. But
Nice.
yeah. Anyway, so day-to-day stuff. It's kind of just like get up around 9, actually get my coffee, start my day, and I'll usually do kind of the same thing Bill does. I'll try to be avid about checking email, but usually I have 90 Discord pings by then, so I'll try to check Discord also. So comb through the emails, comb through Discord, check the socials, and trying to pull myself away from that a little bit more. I love interacting with people on social media, but at the same time, it's a blessing and a curse. Like I'm kind of there's so much auxiliary stuff going on that I can't be trying to look at everything and conquer everything all at once. So we're picking up socials, by the way. Social activity from us is going to be a lot more robust, engaged, responsive. Not that we haven't been yet, but we're doing it we're going to put it to the 9s, to the 10s. But yeah, go through email and then Discord, and we usually, Bill and I usually touch base every day around 10 or 11 or so. We have our daily meetings towards 4. Everything in between, we'll kind of use our project management board, our online project management service tool. We'll go through that, and that's kind of the definitive spot, so stuff doesn't get lost in the hail of Discord tweets or posts, because it's so easy to do. I mean, you can pin messages till your eyes bleed, but when we do see something that's really important or demands a bigger discussion, we'll put it up on our project management board and discuss it there, or me combing through email and then extracting items from that, throwing them up on the project management board. But and taking a step back at some point in the day, I think, is a necessity, and kind of taking a look at what did I get done today, what could I have gotten done now, what do I need to put on my plate, like first and foremost tomorrow. And that can be challenging when there's so much to do. And I'm such a stickler for detail. So and working in Photoshop and stuff that I shouldn't be doing, that I always get roped into doing because I do find it fun. Am I the best? Hell no, not even by a long stretch. Am I the best at Photoshop or something? But you have to gauge your time in the day, and then tack it onto is me making a mock-up of something to show our artist worth my time, and then how much time should I be spending doing it? Can I do it and get it done in like 20 minutes and then knock it out, send it to our artist and done? So I do find myself wearing a lot of hats, like literally, and well, not literally, but I do find myself wearing a lot of hats at times, and then it's just like you have to pull yourself out and kind of look at the bigger picture and be like, should I be doing this stuff? Can any of this stuff be delegated out? And working at a PR agency, that's certainly not a skill that they teach you. I mean, it's talking with press and then getting review codes out and building those relationships and stuff. But the actual bigger picture stuff that my eyes have really been open to working with Bill has just been and I'm eternally grateful for that. It's just astounding. I mean, learning about just the bigger picture operation type things that go on with publishers that a lot of people and customers, fans, whatever, don't realize happen. It's just crazy the amount of detail and the amount of work that goes into some of this stuff. That's why, and I'll mention one final thing here. There's a publisher, Dispatch. I'll put them out there. That I I guess a lot of people were upset with because they weren't, giving their customers updates. People were ordering games, and they're kind of local. They're from California. I picked up one of their games a while back in GameStop, and I was like, wow, they're from like. I looked on the back of the box. I'm like, wait, where are they from? Wow, they're from the Bay Area. Like, and this little town, like that was just kind of outside the Bay Area, and it's like, wow, who thought a publisher would be there? And they picked up a couple of cool games like Rattagy, and I was like, dude, that's a really cool shmup. Like that's awesome, good for you guys. And there was a lot of people getting super hyper pissed because they're not communicating. And I understand when you're holding on to people's money and you're not talking to customers, like where the hell's my game? I put my trust in you. You need to put your trust in, or you need to turn around and deliver the product I bought, the game I bought. And so they weren't communicating, but I was giving them the benefit of the doubt. Like I'm just like, there's so much going on behind the scenes, especially the whole pandemic thing. That it's really tough to paint things so black and white, and just, they said they were going to come out with an update. And in a day we'll have an update for everybody on what's been going on. Which they did, but I was just trying to, there was like one positive comment somebody threw up, said like, it's cool, we believe you, want you to succeed. And I latched onto that. I was like, that person's cool. I was like, that dude's awesome. Like, it's somebody who has faith and like understands that things happen. Will that same motto and mindset be applied to physicality? No. We're very, transparent. We're trying to communicate as much as humanly possible. Our community manager right now, she's working on like bite-sized digests of everything that went into like our production, our update for the grand opening. Like we have like this huge laundry list of stuff we went through and fixed and changed and updated and revised. But you can't expect everybody to go look at a wall of text. So we're breaking those down into little bite-sized, as she calls them, snacks. For people to just check out on Twitter and look at, or Facebook. But yeah, the communication and all the things that go into the day-to-day workings, it's just, there's a lot, and it does change day to day. It's absolutely crazy. So there you go. Another long-winded response from yours truly.
I dig it. So I got 2 more questions for you guys, and
40 more minutes of responses from me.
Nah, I'm fine with it. See, these are the kind of conversations my audience absolutely loves. So it's like, and I'll give you a bit of context. Like, I won't name the voice actress, but there's a very prominent voice actress I had on my show, and that podcast was like pulling teeth. She didn't want to talk, and it was, as much as I was trying to be like nice and like, oh, so how'd you get into it? Oh, I did this, this, and this. I was like, okay, and can I have a little more? Do you mind talking? And it was probably the most anticipated voice acting interview I was supposed to have last year, and the most critically panned episode I've ever done, with my audience incredibly angry. So the fact that you guys are energetic, you're talking, I'm so happy. The audience is going to be so happy.
Well, everybody's bored from my responses.
Reality, make sure that they have an interesting show.
Huh?
You do 2 things. First off, you make sure that the people participating in the reality show can't eat. Keep them really hungry. Then get them really drunk. Then put them in a stressful situation. Hilarity ensues. That's why shows like Big Brother, literally, they make sure guys don't have access to food for 12 hours, and they'll make sure the refrigerator has wine and beer in it. And that's the strategy.
I dig it. But honestly, though, I do appreciate you guys like being energetic and just answering questions. So stop saying long-winded. I'm for it.
It's like, it's so much easier to do too when you're not, typing out an email or something, of course. But
yeah,
I'm not always like this. So maybe I am. Sorry.
Nah, no, right.
But
so one of the questions I did have from one of my audience members was for, like, I guess what, when it comes to, I'm sure your guys' competitors, there's issues that comes with, like, I guess, scalping and dealing with scalpers, and like, what is Physicality Games' approach to dealing with like scalping market? Because I'm not sure really there is there really a combative measure for that, or
We've taken,
Yeah.
we make enough games, no artificial scarcity.
okay.
That's one of the things that was really, really difficult for us to address. And we are active in Facebook groups and not just ours. I mean, other collector groups and stuff in Discord. And I believe there's a Switch collectors Discord group that's run by the Special Reserve guys. Super awesome. Like if you want to buy physical games, Special Reserve, they're super awesome.
I have nothing but respect for those guys.
Yeah, and they have really kick-ass packaging. Like, I mean, that is something to strive for. Their packaging is radical. Like, we're active in all these other communities, and one of the main feedback points we received was, what's the motivator? What's the driver? You guys are trying to combat scalping. You guys are trying to combat the secondhand market. If everything is unlimited, what's the motivator to order? And the answer to that was like, okay, well, let's do this. We don't want to limit our games. Like that was never the intention. But what can we, add a little motivator while pushing toward the goal to get games printed? And that response was, okay, well, let's limit the deluxe editions. So that's the steelbook, the goods, but not the game. So the whole collective unit as a piece is like a set piece, if you will. It's like if you're going to buy like a figure or whatever, it's like there's only 500 of this variant or whatever made. It's kind of like that. So, the deluxe editions are going to be limited to 3,500 pieces on Switch, 2,500 on PS4. But the games, we don't ever really want to limit the games, and we'll continue doing our standard edition, just game by itself or game with tin, the collector tin, for as long as we see a viable option to. And then couple that with a $5 deposit on any game, and you just open the doors to people hopefully like wanting to just blow through them. And then when you do pass that goal, like guess what, you're left with a game that you can print up anytime. You can it's coming from a legitimate source. You're not paying 2-3 times the markup on it, and you get your game still. So and like we were talking about GameStop earlier, and you get like a game that's not open, or you get their gutted copy. It's like okay, when you used to be able to go into stores and ask, I'd always be at the counter and be like, can you check a couple of the stores around the area? And if they all see like one in stock, it's going to be the gutted copy. So you're like, shit, fine, I'll just buy this one. But yeah, we just never believed in it. It's not something that was in our blood, in our we weren't passionate about, the fear of missing out. Like, I know that's a strong motivator, but hell or high water, I just don't believe it. I think that's just kind of a bummer, like wanting a game and not being able to get it.
Yeah. It definitely creates that, that artificial scarcity, and it's case in point. There was the collectors I wanted to get for Streets of Rage, and I wasn't able to get it because
one of the other 5 versions that apparently just surfaced like after.
Yeah, and there was a huge blow up about that, because even I was like, wait, I didn't know that. I thought only that company was doing that, and then come to find out, it's like, oh, okay, all right. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that you guys are willing to answer, because I wasn't too sure. I was like, is that too controversial? But I like that you guys came out the gate and just was like, there we go.
I will say, I sometimes feel like we got punished for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so first off, it was from moment one sort of a theology thing. It's like no artificial scarcity. We really believed in that, and we still do. But there is no doubt that artificial scarcity sells games. I mean, people who will go out and order because they know they're not going to be available. And I don't regret the decision not to do that. As I said, from a theology point of view, we really believe if you want the game, you should be able to play it, period. But from a business point of view, it was a really hard thing to do. And, you know, we feel we're still dealing with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be 100% blunt personally. Like, if the site goes down for whatever reason, if it doesn't work, you know, we stand by the fact that we tried to, you know, answer the people's qualms and issues with, you know, fear of missing out, false scarcity, all that stuff. Yeah, we'll stand by that to the, you know, we'll go down with the ship. You know,
down until COVID-20, which is successor to COVID-19. The mosquito already takes us down.
But yeah, we'll stand by that until the day we die. Like, you know, the only thing that I want people missing out on or whatever is a deluxe edition. Like, you know, race to get those. Cool. I don't want people having to break their necks or mash their mouse buttons or change their IPs or whatever just to try to get a game. That's just not what we believe in at all.
Okay. And the last question I have for you guys is, like, when it comes to you know, marketing and whatnot, like, how often do you guys how often are you looking to work with, like, you know, content creators, brand ambassadors, or influencers to partner up with Physicality Games? And is there anything you personally are looking for in influencers or content creators?
I'm really hungry. Anyone that brings cookies.
Yeah, because Bill still can't find his breakfast from this morning.
Yeah, I know. No, the short answer is yes, absolutely. You know, we are huge believers philosophically, at least I am, that all the world's problems can be solved by reasonable conversations between reasonable people. And yes, we're looking for new brands all the time. We've built this incredible platform. We're always interested in stuff to put on it. And we're always interested in ways to, you know, share the stage with other people. So yes, the short answer is yes, absolutely. Cookies are a plus, but they're not required.
Cookies, man. Yeah, to add on to that, I've always been in the mindset, and this comes from traditional kind of PR upbringing, that well, I shouldn't say that actually, because this is completely like opposite of what a lot of other PR agencies and PR managers, directors, whatever do. I've never shied away from giving a key or a game to somebody who wanted it, or who wanted to support whatever I was working on or had my hand, you know, was representing. I think a lot of that shows in, you know, and down the line, you never know who these people are going to turn out to be. If you're a YouTube influencer or an aspiring YouTube content creator or whatever, and you want to become this big influencer, this massive impact, but you have only 51 subscribers, I don't care. Yeah, you want a key? Cool, take a key. Like, I'd rather have content to put on our socials or share with our client than see, now I'm boring Bill, than nothing at all, you know. And that's it just shows in your relationship building at the same time. And then later down the line, you know, will those people come back to you and remember you for it? Totally, they definitely will. I was chatting with somebody the other day who sent me a Twitter DM. They were telling me about, like, oh, you guys should check out this game, blah blah, whatever. And like out of nowhere, they just said, like, oh, you know, and thank you for being so supportive or I told them that. I was like, hey, you know, thanks for the support and really cool input and feedback ideas. He's like, no, thank you for, you know, just considering me for review key, like way back when, whatever. And I was just like, yeah, of course. You know, it's like, if you're hungry for coverage, it's why would I try to bark up the biggest, tallest building when I can just go next door to, you know, to get a sandwich, when I can go next door to the mom and pop shop and be like, all right, cool, here's, you know, get it from there. That's a terrible analogy, but like, the point is, I've always been, you know, open to give people keys or open to working with whomever wants to work with. There's zero size requirement for me. Like last night, somebody came to me and asking for a rolling gunner key. I saw they're a big shmup fan on Twitter. And they even had like one of the games, a shmup game in their avatar or picture image, whatever. And they asked, like, hey, you know, could I possibly get a key too? I know I'm not, you know, a big influencer, a big, you know, whatever, a big impact. And what have they done since? Like before I went to bed, I checked Twitter, and like they were already like putting up video clips of them playing expert mode and shit. And I was like, see, that's the kind of coverage I want. My horrible ass that shmups couldn't get. They're like streaming expert mode. I'm just like, wait, let me get this straight. You just captured the screenshot with like a zillion bullets on the screen, you dodging them, like, and thank you for making that for me. I'm gonna say that. No, but that's awesome. Like I love, and it's reciprocal. That comes around. They give you, they show their support. And sometimes you work up from there. Then you take it to the bigger buildings and be like, oh, well, look at the sweet deal I got from the small mom and pop shop. So to answer your question, always looking for to work with new outlets, new influencers, new content creators, even someone on Twitter. Like if you have a small following, if we have an ample amount of keys, which aren't unlimited unless you're Steam, you could get whatever the hell you want. But you do have a set amount of keys that you receive from PlayStation, from Sony, from Microsoft, from Nintendo. But yeah, keys don't cost anything really in the grand scheme of things. So always happy to work with anybody of any size.
Yeah, I know. I'll say for myself, with how I am personally with I work with companies, because like I've been a content creator doing YouTube for about 4, almost 5 years. And, I remember when I had 5 subscribers and a company took the chance, and, I got to be very grateful to NIS America, because they're the first company to take a chance on me and give me a review code. And I still have a very strong working relationship with them now. And it opens so many doors. And I understand, in fostering relationships with the different industries and different companies. And for me, and I'm a bit of a hard ass on other creators about this, especially if I ever refer a creator to a company that I've worked with, or a creator or a company that I've established a relationship with. And it's that there is a strong level of trust when a company decides to pick you out of thousands, hundreds of thousands of other creators. They pick you to give you a code to work with you. You have to cherish that, appreciate that, and give it your all. Even if it's a game you may not like, be respectful. Like for me, no matter what, I'm shocked this year I'm able to do stuff with Microsoft and Nintendo and Sony, and to work my way to that. But even with other companies that I work with, I'm so like, it's humbling, every time I get the PR email, or hey Mekel, you want to review this game? Yeah, sure. I'd love to. Like it's for me, like even having you guys on the show, being able to work with you guys, it's something I take very seriously, and I'm very honored for the opportunity. And I'm, like I said, I'm known as a hard ass on other people. They're like, oh, no, I'll review it, or I'll do this when I feel like it. No, respect that relationship you have with the company. So.
Yeah, and then it's cool. Then all these doors open for you, and you get to look back at Nice America or Nice and just be like, hell yeah! And you have that like spot in your heart for them now. That's always I've always felt about just pretty much anybody who comes to me who shows interest, a genuine interest. Oftentimes I might check if it's a website, I'll check their site to see if they are covering the news, because then I kind of have a feeling that okay, yeah, there is genuine interest here. They are showing their support by covering us. And then asking for a key, but yeah, that's really awesome. I totally, fully agree and understand exactly where you're coming from there.
I would say our philosophy is we're all in this together.
Yeah.
No kidding. Yeah.
Definitely. And actually, Light, I actually have one final question for you guys.
Yes, sir.
Did you have fun?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Way to wind up a very long week.
I was just going to say that same thing. I totally agree.
Yeah, I just want to come to Hawaii and hang out, buy you a drink, whatever. No, this has been awesome. I feel like we had fun. We talked, made new friends. I mean, what do you want?
Don't want to find his breakfast this morning that the maid hid.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the problem was the maid and the cook and the butler really weren't coordinating with the catering service.
Tough life.
It is. And I should, by the way, also thank you for listening to my dumb jokes. I love my dumb jokes, and I never get an audience for them. So.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah,
See.
they're starting to repeat with me now.
Nah, it's fine. It's fine. Is there anything you guys would love to leave with the audience before we go?
I would just say our URL, physicalitygames.com. Check us out. Roll and Gun, which is an amazing, amazing game. Guilty Gear. I mean, how much more classic can you get? And it's both the first game and the last game in the series combined into one.
Well, the first game and the last game in the 2D sprite-based.
Right, in the 2D version, yeah, absolutely. Together with some, if you get the luck, there's some cool figurines. And then, of course, you can see David's flag behind you, Slayaway Camp.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimate slasher game.
Yep.
Yeah, honestly, we'd really appreciate your business. We could really use your help and support.
Yeah. I know I pre-ordered your Guilty Gear. I'm a huge Guilty Gear fan. I have been with the series since 1998 with the first entry, and I'm one of the testers for Strive. So I am. Oh,
I've been eyeing the fight stick behind you.
Oh, I have a whole row. Like I have
4.
Yeah, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 2 in the other room.
Damn, kick down.
And I have about 6 sitting here on my shelf.
Wow. Okay, so I was thinking about just building my own recently because I was like, this should be kind of fun, but I might have to talk to you about this kind of stuff.
Hey, let me know. Depends on like what you're looking for. Sanwa, Hayabusas. Are you in like what type of restrictor gate? We can talk about all of that.
Yeah, we're on. I will definitely come to you for that stuff then.
Definitely. And yeah, that being said, this is a show. If you guys, hope you guys all enjoyed listening to and watching it. You can catch this episode of the Kasanova podcast along with every other episode on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Pandora, and also on iHeartRadio. I should be reading it off because it's right there. I always forget, but it's right there. iHeartRadio as well. You can also catch it in live format every single week on Twitch and YouTube. And if you want to support the podcast, we do have Patreon, which, helps go into better production of the show, more advertising, all the other stuff that goes. Because, podcasting is not easy. So every bit helps. Whatever you guys invest into me, I reinvest into the show because I really believe that every dollar counts. And I really, honestly, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing without you guys that have been supporting me and my wife with this journey we've been on. And that being said,
what better time to support the content you love though right now, man? I mean, like, help everybody out. It's such an important time for everyone. Every little dollar does count. So definitely.
And with that being said, it's myself, Bill, and David. We are signing out. You guys have a great one.
Well, thank you so much. Good weekend.
Hey, did you enjoy this episode of the Kasanova podcast? Well, I'm sure you did. And since you did, and you're wondering where else you can find it on every podcasting outlet. Yes, that includes Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Launchpad DM by Podcast One, and so much more. And the only thing I ask of you is if you truly enjoyed it, even if you didn't enjoy it, please leave a rating and tell us what you thought of it, what you like, what you didn't like, and everything in between. And also, if you're looking for video formats of this podcast and many more, you'll be able to find them on youtube.com/Mekel Kasanova, as well as on twitch.tv/Mekel Kasanova, and new episodes every single Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, that being said, this is Mekel Kasanova, Hawaii's favorite YouTuber. I am signing out. You guys have a great one.